Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is Salman Anjum at my YouTube channel, and I'm here with another episode of exciting topic in biology. So, if you remember the last time we were talking about cell. So we have defined cell in much detail. I mean, you can count for me that how the way we have defined cell. Number 1, we have learned to draw a cell. Number 2, we have looked at how animal cells they look different from the plant cell. Number 3, we have counted the parts of the cell, for example, cell wall, cell membrane, and all of these components. And then we went inside the cell, we started swimming, and we landed on different organelles. For example, nucleus, it was their ribosome, endoplasmic reticulum, and we have learned the role of different organelles. For example, mitochondria and lysosomes. And we also counted certain differences at the level of organelles with regard to plants and animals, such as who contains who, like chloroplast is there in the plant system, or larger vacuoles are there in the plant system. Okay, so far we have just defined the role of one cell. But if you remember that we defined that there are multicellular organisms. So for a moment, if you think about it, that if one cell is doing everything, then why there is a need of having multiple cells? So why evolution or nature has blessed us or blessed different organisms with so many cells? And you can also think at this point, if one cell is doing one kind of job, then what is the benefit of having too many cells? Let's say if one cell can do one kind of job, then what is the advantage of having 10 cells? Do all those cells doing the same job, or some of them they are doing different job? So there must be some advantage of having multiple cells then. That means I give you example of some factory or some industry. Let's say you are running a factory which makes some bottles or something, and there was just one person alone in the factory. So what will happen? Will you be able, if there is just one person, will he be able to fulfill the need of supply, let's say? Of course not. He would take a lot of time to make the required amount of bottles, let's say. So, and then you hire two people, let's say, in that industry. Of course, the burden would be divided. They would feel slightly happier, and the pace of the work would be increased. What if you hire 3 and then 4 and then 5 and then 100 people, let's say, over there? So that means having more amount of people or having more manpower basically increases the amount of work done, and also it increases the efficiency, the way the work is done, and also it reduces the burden on one person. So if you're having more manpower, that means there is more division of labor. Not everyone is doing the same job. Let's say if you are having 100 persons in one industry, not all of them they are doing the same thing. Then there is no advantage of having more people in one industry, let's say. If you're having 100 persons in one industry, they all would divide certain tasks. For example, 10% would say, okay, we do this kind of job. Other 10 or 15 would say, okay, we make this kind of thing. And next 10 or 20 would say, okay, we do the final packaging or something else. And then next will divide or pick up their own task. So this way, they all are sharing different kind of task. So overall, then they all are interlinked with each other, and their all contributions would be collected at one place, and you will get a refined kind of task at the very end. So that means having more manpower leads to division of labor, and that leads to more efficiency. So this example can be equally applied on having more number of cells, more than one cell. So think about, if you have more number of cells, that means you can assign certain tasks to certain amount of cells. And you must be very surprised. We don't have 10 or 20 or 100 cells. We basically have trillion of cells. And having so much amount of cells, that means how many different kind of tasks we are doing, our body is doing. And also, if we have too many cells, that means it also tells us how complex we are, in fact, how difficult a human being is, how difficult or how complex the multicellular organisms are. For example, the plants, the animals you see around, or the human being you see around. So they are so complex because they have too many cells. That means there are too many reactions happening inside their body. So this is the topic of today, that we are going to talk about how human bodies, they are organized, human systems and their body organization. One thing is very clear, that we are going to talk about human this time. We are not going to talk about animals or plants. But of course, by studying or analyzing human being, you can also consider or relate human being with other animals or other systems, of course. Like we are mammals, other animals or lions or tigers, they all are mammals. So there is some relationship or similarities among different animals. But in this time, we are just focusing on human being. And we are going to talk about human bodies, and we are going to learn about how the way they are organized. Organization means that we need to focus on something which is organizing them, which is linking something together. Okay, we are done with the cells, and now we are moving on if we are having more number of cells. So what if I draw something here for you first? Let's say we are on the, of course we are on the whiteboard this time. We used to first we were learning about having one cell. Okay, we learned about one cell. So that means the second cell would also be roughly similar. What if we have too many cells? So this person or this thing is multicellular organism having too many cells. So first you need to be very clear this time that every individual cell is a eukaryotic cell this time. Means every cell is having nucleus inside. So whether I draw here nucleus or not, every cell is having nucleus inside. Okay. So we are not going at cellular details this time or their differences. And remember that every cell would be having DNA inside. There is DNA in every single cell. So far, every cells, they are looking roughly the same. That they are having nucleus, they are eukaryotic, they are having the DNA. But still, there are coming some differences. And I give you the example of differences. You look at yourself. For example, we have our hands, and hands, they look different to that of our arms. Our arms are quite different than our face. Even components at our face, for example eyes, for example nose, for example mouth, they all are different. The cheeks, they are different. Our hands, they look different than our feet. So this way, our feet, they look different from our legs. Not only they look different, but also their functions are different. And even if you go inside, for example, our stomach is different, our liver is different. You must have heard these names. I have to define what liver is doing or what some stomach is doing. Let's say if you are familiar about these very common things like intestine, like heart, like blood. So everything is made of cells. Then why having too many cells is making the function entirely different? Then why having so many cells is making the whole organism look totally different? So this is the topic where we are going to define how some cells they look identical, and how other cells, they look different, and still they work together. For example, you remember that, of course you know, that our hands and our feet, they communicate. Whenever your feet require your hand, they go there and work. For example, you need to scratch your feet, so of course they do it for you. In the same way, you need to wash your face, so your hands are doing it. I mean, it is just a very basic example this time. It's not too biological example, but still I mean to say that there is a connection between different parts of the body. More relevant example I'm going to give you in the future slides. So that shows our body is properly organized. We are having hands, we are having eyes, or they have proper function. So everything is well organized and well placed. Okay, so now we know very clearly that we have too many cells, like 100 trillion cells. It is difficult to count. If a baby is smaller, of course, he would be having less number of cells as compared to the adult who is taller. Of course, he would be having more number of cells. But roughly, in general, the maximum amount of cells they are 100 trillion. They can be slightly more or they can be slightly less, but it is difficult to count them. So, but still, we can say that the humans, they have too many cells. And how many types of cells are there? Roughly more than 100 type of cells. This is what I was talking about. The types are different, which are making us the same human body look different. For example, we have hands, we have feet, we have blood, we have heart, we have stomach, and their cells, they are of different types. That is why they are making different kind of shapes, or specifically organs. So things are organized this way. Actually, things are starting again from cells. Cells, when they are too much in number, they first organize themselves in the form of tissues. I would explain soon what tissues are. And then when we have too many tissues or multiple tissues, they organize themselves in the form of organ. And then when we have multiple organs, they organize themselves as organ system. And then if we have multiple organ systems, then there is a coordination among organ systems, and the whole thing is called organism. Now, before explaining the next points, I would go back to how cells make tissues and what is the difference between one tissue and the second tissue. So this time I have this tissue paper and I am going to erase the whiteboard with this. Okay. So this is just a tissue paper, not that tissue about which I'm going to discuss. And let's say I am drawing there, as I explained before, the cells, they come in different size and shapes. Let's say this time I am drawing circular cells. So, and here I am drawing slightly longitudinal kind of cells. And here I am drawing, let's say, triangular kind of cells. And here I am drawing, let's say, slightly pointed cells. Okay, so these round cells, they are quite high in number. These longitudinal cells, they are also in multiple number. These ones, they are also in multiple number, and these triangular cells, they are also in multiple number. So by looking at their shapes, of course you can count how many types of cells there are. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that means there are present 4 tissues in this area. So you can of course understand the definition of tissues then, that identical cells, when they join together, they make something which is called tissue. So tissue is having identical cells. Tissue is having multiple cells, but they all are identical. And if there are other cells who are also identical but different from this one, for example these ones, and they are identical with each other, so this is a second tissue. And this one in the same way is third tissue, and these cells, they are identical with each other, so it is a fourth tissue this time. 1, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th tissue. So if you are having identical cells at this place, that means it is one kind of tissue. So that means they all are identical and they perform the same task. Of course they are the same cells. Here they are identical and they perform the same task. Of course the task performed by these cells would be different from the task performed by these ones, because not only their shapes are different, but they are different cells and they are behaving differently. So that means every tissue, it performs a different task. The next point was, so here we have learned that's how cells, they make tissue. When cells are identical, they make one tissue. So ultimately this way different tissues, they can be placed around each other. The next point is then how tissues, they make organ. So when multiple tissues, they sit together, they make one organ. So this is one organ overall. So this organ is composed of 4 type of tissues, 1, 2, 3, 4, and multiple cells. So this overall thing is one organ. Let's say there is another organ sitting here, and it would be having its own type of cells, for example, and its own type of tissues. So if you draw another organ here with different type of tissues, so that would become a different organ. So this way there are multiple organs. I give you the example of one organ, let's say, which is hand. If you look at your hand, the one side of your hand, for example this, it can grow hair on this side, while this side cannot grow hair, right? So that means the upper side and the lower side of your hand looks different with each other, and they both behave differently. The reason is that they both are made by cells, but different cells. That means they both are having different tissue. So the tissue, this tissue is different than this tissue. As well as not only the skin tissue is present, but also there is present muscular tissue. Muscles are present, which is a different tissue. It is made by identical different cells. And then there is a bone tissue. So bone is present inside. Then there is blood inside. Blood is having its own type of cells. That means blood is a different tissue. You can also feel when you touch at your hand. That means your hand also has a nervous tissue, means nerve cells are there. So that means collectively your one organ, which is hand, is composed of multiple tissues. The skin tissue, the muscle tissue, the blood tissue, the nervous tissue, as well as the bone tissue. So that the way I was explaining, one organ is composed of multiple tissues. Then there are, of course, you can witness there are multiple organs. For example, hand, arm, face, your legs, feet, there are multiple organs, and every organ is composed of its own type of tissues, and it performs its own function. Okay, so now we are clear how identical cells, they make one tissue, and how multiple tissues then they make one organ, and then how multiple organs they make organ system. Organ system means we have digestive system. So there are multiple organs in the digestive system. If you start from mouth, you start eating from mouth. Mouth then is connected with your throat, and then throat is connected with your stomach, and stomach is then connected with intestine. So this way there are multiple organs present in the digestive system. There is also present pancreas that supports your digestion. There is also present liver that supports your digestion. So this way, this is one digestive system which is composed of multiple organs. You can count for me. Number 1, mouth. Number 2, throat. Number 3, stomach. Number 4, intestine. Number 5, pancreas. Number 6, liver. So this way, generally speaking, I've counted multiple organs which are connected with each other, and they are performing for one function, which is digestion. So this overall thing is called organ system. This is one system, which is digestive system. In the same way, there is another organ system, which is the system of our heart, which is called cardiovascular system. In the same way, there is another system which is called respiratory system. There is another system which is called urinary system. Urinary system is also composed of multiple organs like kidney, like ureter, like urethra. So this way multiple organs are present, and they all work for one organ system. And when there are multiple organ systems, for example digestive, respiratory, cardiovascular, urinary, and so on, so they all are interconnected, and then they make one organism. Right. So that is why we say there is coordination among multiple organ systems. For example, you want to walk. So that means your eyes are working for you. Your eyes are communicating with your legs. Your legs are walking, and legs, they are a different organ system. That is a muscular system, that is a skeletal system, right? So your bones are walking. Basically, when your legs are walking, it is your bone and muscles, they are walking, but they are linked with, they are coordinating with your eyes, as well as they are coordinating with your brain, nervous system. So that means multiple systems, they are coordinating with each other. And when you are running or walking, your heart is also very active. It is supplying more amount of blood to your legs. In the same way, your digestive system, if you are eating alongside, of course you require energy, so your digestion is also increased, that is continuously supplying glucose more towards your legs. So this way multiple organ system, they are coordinating. And there is a control mechanism as well. So your brain is basically controlling, as well as there is a system which is regulating how much you can walk. If there is less glucose in the body, of course the brain is checking. If there is less amount of glucose in the body, that your body would not support your legs to walk further. Of course you would start to feel tired. That means your walk or running is under some control, and basically that control is good for the body. Basically the first purpose is to survive, to save the life, and then to give you extra luxury. Running or jumping is a luxury, but the basic necessity is to survive. That means your internal body environment is under some control, that something is counting how much glucose is present. If less amount of glucose is present, it tells you to eat something. If less oxygen, it asks you to breathe faster. For example, when you are running, that means you need to breathe faster. If there is blood pressure which is decreased, your heart has to pump faster to increase the blood pressure to take it to normal point. If unfortunately in some cases it is increased, there are mechanisms which are trying to bring the blood pressure back to normal. So this way there is always a check and balance inside. which is trying to maintain the internal environment. For example, blood pressure, your pulse rate, your heart, the way your heart beats, and so on. Or sleeping and waking up timing, everything is under some control, and overall thing is called homeostasis. Homeostasis means the mechanisms which are trying to maintain the internal environment, that is called homeostasis. And of course, when there are homeostasis reactions happening, who is doing that? Different cells. So basically, when you walk, when you breathe, when your heart beats, when homeostasis is happening, any chemical reaction, any things which are working inside your body, it is actually at the level of cells. And now, of course, we have learned that how the way the cells, they make tissues. Cells must do many things to maintain homeostasis. Of course, they are doing a lot of things. For example, they are metabolizing glucose if there is less ATP in the body, and if there are more ATP or enough ATP present, they have to store glucose. So this way they are adjusting accordingly. And cells, they are performing different functions, as I've told you, that different tissues, they are performing different tasks. For example, blood is one tissue, bone is a different tissue, nerve cells, they make nervous tissue. So every cell is different and they are performing different functions, and they are specialized for their tasks. For example, blood cells, they are specialized for that kind of activity. Heart cells, they are active for heart beating or supplying blood. In the same way, the stomach is specialized for digesting the food, and so on. So they are given multiple cells examples. Muscle cell, they are specialized cells for muscular activity, neurons for nervous tissue, red blood cells for blood-based activities, and skin cells, epithelial cells, they are specialized for protection or skin function. So we move on to further slides. Of course, now we know that cells, they form tissues. So it is stating the group of same type of cells performing same function. Identical cells, they make one tissue. And there is a list of different tissues. For example, skin tissue, nervous tissue, muscular tissue, blood tissue, or connective tissue. So this way there are multiple tissues present inside our body. And then multiple tissues, they form one kind of organ, like the way I gave you example of heart or hand or feet or whatever. And there is a coordination among different organs as well as different tissues. They are coordinated. For example, this is one organ, which is, you can guess, it is stomach, your very own stomach. And if you can count, this is one organ only, of course, but this is composed of multiple tissues. It is composed of blood tissue, which is connective tissue. It is also composed of nervous tissue, because it has to be coordinated with the brain. It has skin tissue, epithelial tissue, as well as it has muscular tissue, muscle tissue. It also has other tissues, but so far we can count that it is composed of 4 different tissues. And multiple organs then form organ system, like the way I gave you example of stomach and mouth and everything, which make digestive system. And for additional help, there is saliva produced by your mouth, pancreas is there, gallbladder, intestines, they all are present and they are supporting digestion. Even nervous system, other body organ system, they are supporting. Brain is connected, spinal cord, nerves, they all are connected. They are not part of digestive system, but when digestion is happening, of course, nervous system is very active. It is supporting your digestion. So that means multiple organs, as I have given you first the example that multiple organ system, they are connected. So here is another example. So, and what organs are doing, basically they are performing their own task. You can take any example as I explained before. So there is basically a list of multiple organ systems. So, but we will study a few of them. For example, integumentary system, skin system, or nails or hair, muscular system, skeletal system, cardiovascular, respiratory, breathing system, urinary system, excretory system, male reproductive system, female reproductive system, nervous system, digestive system, lymphatic, as well as hormonal system or endocrinal system. So, organ system, I have explained. Digestive system composed of multiple organs. Other examples are cardiovascular system composed of heart as well as blood tubings as well as blood. Nervous system composed of multiple organs like brain, like spinal cord and wirings. And muscular system and skeletal system, they are also composed of multiple bones and muscles. So they all are connected with each other. You can have multiple examples of urinary system, digestive, respiratory, and of course they all are interconnected, coordinating each other, and they work together. Like urinary, digestive, and respiratory, they all work together to remove waste from the body. But the type of waste they remove, they are different, but still they work together. Like urinary system, it removes urea from the body. Digestive system, it also removes waste out of your body. Respiration also removes waste. Which kind of waste? Carbon dioxide. And of course, when we inhale air, we inhale nitrogen as well, but it's also exhaled out of the body. We don't take the nitrogen completely inside. And in the same way, digestive and circulatory system, they are also working together. When you are eating, there is more blood supply towards your stomach or to your mouth because you are chewing. That means digestive system is working with circulatory system to complete the task of digestion. Okay, so that shows that there is interdependence, that the different organs, they are dependent upon each other. No organ system is just independent, they all are interconnected. And sometimes there is one exceptional thing. There are certain organs who are working for two different organ systems. I give you the example here. Like pancreas. Pancreas not only works for digestive system, but pancreas, the same organ, it also works for endocrine system. Pancreas also produces insulin, and also it is connected with your intestine for digestion. That means pancreas, one organ, is linked with two different organ systems. Stomach, it is also linked with two different systems, digestive system majorly, as well as communication importantly. In the same way, liver, a very important organ, and it is linked with multiple tasks. For example, metabolism of carbohydrate, protein, and lipid, as well as not only just their metabolism for energy production, but also drug that you take, drug metabolism. Drug means the good ones. Detoxification of any wrong material which is inside the body. So liver has to detoxify. So detoxification is a completely different task than digestive function. So that means liver is involved in multiple different tasks. Waste, urea management, and storing minerals, as well as storing different carbohydrates. Okay, have you ever thought, of course you know, that what may happen if a system fails? Failure of one system, one whole system, is a big thing. That means all organs are not working. What if just one organ is not working? What if just one tissue is not working? And what if when just one cell is not working? And think about what if just small DNA is not working nicely? So of course there is a problem in the body. But this time we are talking about if a system is not working or if an organ is not working. So homeostasis is disturbed. If heart is not working nicely, that means the blood pressure cannot be maintained nicely. In the same way, if stomach is not working nicely, that means digestion would not happen. And if digestion would not happen, the whole body would be affected. The whole body would not get enough energy. So heart system, heart pumping would be affected, brain would be affected, breathing and muscular system, walking, exercise, speaking, and everything would be affected. That means one organ failure or the whole system failure is so crucial for the whole body. That whole body is interconnected and the whole body is affected. And this may result in death, of course, if there is a big failure like kidney failure or liver failure or stomach failure or heart failure, whatever, or brain stroke, whatever. If one organ or multiple organs, they are not working nicely, then the whole body would be in pain. So examples are angina, if heart is not working nicely. If the blood supply is restricted to heart does not get enough energy to pump, and then of course the whole body would be affected. The brain would not be working nicely if the brain is not getting energy because heart is not pumping blood nicely. So there happens depletion of nutrients and oxygen in the body because heart is not sending the blood properly throughout the body. That condition is called angina. Or diabetes, for example, if pancreas is not working nicely, if pancreas is not producing insulin, so that means the amount of glucose would stay higher in the blood, and your cells and the body cells would not get enough glucose for ATP production. Mitochondria would not get enough glucose for ATP production. That means the cells would not be having ATP, cells would not be able to perform something, and cells would start to die. So enough amount of glucose in the blood, because there is no insulin, can damage eyes, kidneys, brain, nerves, digestive system, and the whole body failure may happen if no extra care is taken. That means every little organ in the body is so crucial, so important, because things are interconnected, interdependency is there. Okay, so it was the topic, and if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask me. Thank you so much.